You know, I love this music. It feels like you should have like an umbrella in a drink, right?
Right.
And it should be here instead of this white water in a styrofoam cup.
Yes.
Doesn't that sound
Yes.
good
Right now.
It certainly does. Yeah, I wanted to let you finish your thought. You were talking about sort of the differences between nurses and doctors and that kind of care. Did you just want to finish your thought on that?
Yeah, I wanted to say that in terms of nursing, we have a holistic approach to healthcare.
Okay.
Meaning, when I said that we have to know as much as doctors, meaning that we have to know the same type of medications, the pathophysiology. We have to know how to treat patients, their prognosis. We have to know a lot of things about the patient in general because we're with the patients most of the time.
Yeah.
And also nurses have to check the doctor's orders. So it's not like you can not know what you're doing in terms of what the doctor's doing. You have
need to
to know
understand it, too.
everything
That makes
in
sense.
terms of procedures that we are doing for patients as well.
And
Lori?
in that same thought, if a physician writes the wrong dosage on something and we give it, it's our license.
Oh, no
Yes.
kidding. Who would have known that?
So we have to know
wow.
just as
Yes.
much.
That's very
and be
interesting.
careful.
I
Yes.
didn't know that.
My instructor used to say, dumb doctor, dumb nurse. Meaning, if a dumb doctor writes something and you do it and it's wrong, you're even dumber.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
It's
That's
a
an
big
interesting-
liability.
No kidding.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about your company because, as I said at the top of the show, you are an entrepreneur. We've got books in front of us that you've written, but you have a company. I thought you could tell us the name of your company and what your vision is. So what's the name of your company?
Well, Marsha, about 8 years ago, I was working for this big organization, healthcare organization, and there were a lot of medical assistants and receptionists and patients that were just intrigued by becoming registered nurses. And I was at home talking to a friend, and he said, "Why don't you just write a book?" And at that time, I was like, "What? Write a book?" And so I named a company called Nurses to Rock Publishing, in which I published these books from student to nurse and the journal. Well, it was just like a dare, but the book ended up in national distribution with Barnes & Noble.
Wow, good
But
for you.
thank you,
And
thank
here I'm
you.
thinking pub is like, let's have a beer.
No.
And I didn't know. That's very interesting.
No, but I'll go on about the
Yeah.
pub. So it was publishing initially, but then I named it, I said Nurses Rock. So the company itself was Nurses Rock too, because I feel that nurses are the backbone of the nursing community.
Right.
We are the backbone of the healthcare
Absolutely.
profession.
Yes.
And with this book, I started the book, and then there was something more intriguing that people just kept coming to me wanting to know more. And with the company, I started doing these seminars, the seminars for nursing students in which panelists, professionals would come and speak to the students, mentor the students. And it was just so rewarding to have all of this happen, to see people start nursing program, to end the nursing program. And it didn't stop there. So here it is now. I changed the name again because I thought Nurses Rock was just too common. Everyone started to rock. Everybody, nurses rock, this rock, everybody rock. And so I changed it to the Nurses Pub, in which the pub is a community in which my students can be mentored, they can be nourished. There's a community of professional nurses that can help. I have workshops, I have seminars, I have the books, I have T-shirts. Anything that I can help with the student becoming successful is what the Nurses Pub is about.
Oh, that's
And you
terrific.
can
What
also have a
vision.
drink if you want to.
There you go.
Yes.
That's medicinal.
It's all about nourishing students and nourishing the growth of future nurses, and
Absolutely.
it's so needed nowadays.
It truly
it's a
is.
tough role. It's a tough.
And you, Lori, also have an organization and a nonprofit that you started, and I want to say the name of it properly. It's called Fulfilling Faces, which is a really interesting name. I'd love to know about that organization and some of the stories that you can share regarding that.
Well, Marsha, for years I have wanted to take my medical expertise and help others. I've always looked at Doctors Without Borders. I've looked at Mercy Ships, and I haven't been able to, number one, afford to be away from my job for months at a time, and away from my children and my family. So, as I was doing my medical aesthetics, I had the opportunity to treat somebody who's a dear, wonderful inspiration to me. Her name's Mimi Fox. And she had been in a terrible car accident where the left side of her face was pretty much torn off. No nose, no cheek, it was horrible. And she was taken to Loma Linda University, which is a wonderful trauma center here in Southern California.
I know that.
And she ended up going through numerous surgeries and numerous types of treatments to help get her back into symmetry and shape. Make a long story short, she is my my dental hygienist.
Oh, no kidding.
So I had told her, I said, if you need anything, I'm here. If you need anything, I'm here. So I would see her once every 6 months.
Sure.
Finally, she showed up at my doorstep at my clinic and said, can you do something? So I ended up doing what are called dermal fillers, which are soft gels that you can kind of put under the tissue and kind of fluff up some tissue because she had lost all the fat and she was just kind of bone on one side of her face.
Wow.
And just doing a little bit on her. And what I did was I called my rep from Galderma, which is the people who do Restylane, and I said, hey, can you swing her a couple syringes? And they said, absolutely. So I ended up doing those with her and surprised her and said, it's free. You don't have to do this. She was in tears.
Oh, you can imagine.
She was in tears. She had
She'd been
never
through
seen
so much.
She had never seen her face symmetrical. She had never seen it soft in 20 years. And
when you met her, she was already had this condition. Got it.
And she looked at me and she said, Lori, I don't mean to discredit what you do, but you need to be doing something like this. And a light bulb went off. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I don't need to go to Africa to help people.
Yes.
I can do it here.
Right.
So I started fulfilling faces, and she's my inspiration.
Wow.
And I'm able to get cancer victims who have had surgery. I'm able to get
Stroke?
trauma victims. Sometimes stroke if there's asymmetry with muscle. I do
Okay.
have people who have had Bell's palsy who are paralyzed on one side, and I can do Botox or Dysport on the side that has a lot of movement to make it their expression more symmetrical. So it's been a godsend. It's been wonderful to be able to help people because we as nurses, that's what we want to do. We are
Right.
here to help people. It makes
Right.
us feel good to help others. That's where we get our joy.
For those of you that might be listening to the show, you're maybe in the car, you're at your office or something like that, you can always go back and watch the show as well. And we do have a picture that you had sent me over of Mimi before and after. And, I mean, she will be, you say that she inspired you, but, I mean, she will love you for the rest of her life for how you changed her life. Can you imagine the self-confidence that she must have? It's just remarkable.
It's funny that you say that because for the first time in 20 years, she did a Christmas picture with her children and sent me a picture and said, this is the first time I've done a photograph like
Right.
this. So it's been, I mean, her story is beyond incredible.
I bet.
But it's just wonderful to even have a little tiny part of that.
You bet.
Well, that's the thing about nursing is that we leave imprints
You bet you do.
in people's lives. It's not about just going to the bedside or it's not about just doing a duty. It's about putting that imprint in someone's lives, whether it's a child or an elderly person or someone needing cosmetics. And that's what's so rewarding and significant about what we do.
And you don't just touch, honestly, and I don't mean to say this repeatedly, but you don't just touch that patient. The
Absolutely.
families.
Absolutely.
The families just, where would we be without nursing care?
Right.
You know, really, I mean that so sincerely. I've lost family members, and I think about my experiences when I would be in the hospital, just realizing how important it was to have that nurse there.
Well, you know what, Marsha? I didn't know the significance of what I do until about 4 years ago when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and I became that family member that was sitting in the hospital
Sure.
24/7 asking for blankets and water and things like that. I did not know the significance of what being a registered nurse and what I was doing was truly helpful to other people
Right.
until I was in that position.
Exactly. And now you really do get it, right?
I get it.
Oh, we so get it. And you
I
get it
get
much
it.
more when you're on the other side.
Yes.
Absolutely.
really do.
Absolutely.
So you started your organization. I want to go back a little bit more to your organization. So you told us how you got the names because you rock. But how long ago did you actually start this organization?
I started the Nurses Rock Company 8 years ago.
All right.
And actually, I do not consider myself an entrepreneur. Everything was done just by my creative thoughts, and I just put my thoughts on paper. But I've never had a business. I've never really thought of myself as an entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, or anything. But all of these tools are coming out because of my wanting to help others.
Was that the inspiration behind this? I mean, is that why you started it? to start your organization?
Absolutely. It was the faces of those single moms and those people in the underserved communities that felt like, hey, Mona, how did you become a registered nurse? I'm not good in math. I'm a single mom. I just got divorced. How can I do this? I see that you're successful. And the thing about being a registered nurse, and I think, Lori, you might know about this as well, it's not what we say to the patients and the students, it's what they see and what we're doing.
Your actions.
So there was something that I was doing that attracted other people to the nursing profession. And that's how I came into the profession. It was what I saw back in my cousin that attracted me to the nursing profession.
I think that is so true because it's much more actions than words.
Yes.
And people know when you're being real. People know when you really
bet.
care about their mom or dad or their child. And we are there because we have empathy. I always tell people, if you don't have empathy and you're not there for the right reason, do something else. Don't be a nurse.
Well, this
don't
is
be a
not
healthcare provider.
but this isn't a walk in the park kind of job either.
No.
You see a lot, and you have to deal with a lot.
Absolutely. And that's one word I don't equate a job with nursing. Nursing is a profession. And a lot of students think of it as a job, but it's really a profession. It can't be considered a job because of the education we have to have, the training that we have to have. It's a very intense profession.
And are you finding more often now that men are starting to come into this profession as well? Or not as much? Oh, that's funny.
We always have a minority of men in there, but we are seeing a fair share of men doing it because it's such a respectable profession to be in. And it takes, I think men are finally realizing that, wow, it really takes somebody who can have a lot of critical thinking, who can assess situations, work quickly. It takes somebody with a lot on the ball to be a nurse.
Yes, so if you're single and looking for a man, go to the ER. You'll find a male nurse there.
Absolutely.
So you see a lot of men nurses in ER?
I do. Actually in the hospital in general, but a lot of the men seem to be in leadership positions in the hospital setting.
Interesting.
But there are a lot of male nurses in the emergency room that I see, primarily.
I don't know if you answered this all. If you did, then I wasn't paying attention. Shame on me. Why did you decide to advance and become a nurse practitioner? Was there something specific that made you want to advance your career?
Marsha, I hadn't really thought about becoming a nurse practitioner. I hadn't really thought about getting my master's. I thought, that's out of my reach. And I had been working for 25 years, like I said, in the hospital setting. But in the last few years I was at the hospital, I was in a management role, and I did not like it. It was very demeaning. It was awful.
Really?
It was awful. And it made me motivated to go on and become a nurse practitioner. One of the main things in the management role that I missed were my patients.
Yes.
I missed my patients. So now that I'm back working with patients and now that I do aesthetics, I am a Cinderella. I can spend all the time I want with my patients. I can joke.
So
I can laugh.
nice.
I ask them about their kids. I ask them about vacations. It's my business. And also our nurses are the same way. We have plenty of time to spend with people. It's a joy. It's not a job.
Yes.
It's not a job.
It's not a job.
I would do it for free. I love what I do now. It's my passion.
You wanted to say
and
something,
mind
Mona?
you, Marsha, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but there are about over 100 specialties to choose from with being a registered nurse.
Oh, no, I didn't
So
know
it's
that.
a very, very unique and interesting
an
profession.
example.
Well, if you like working with forensics, there's a forensic nurse.
Oh,
If you like working in the courtroom, there's the legal nurse.
I hadn't thought of that.
There are
lots of opportunities.
Beyond
Oh
school
my
nurses,
gosh.
pediatrics,
School
neonatal, critical care. There's in the hospital, outside of the hospital setting. And then
Sure.
like I've done crazy other things being
Right.
a nurse. But yeah.
Yeah.
You're right,
Yes.
because mostly for the majority of us that just visit the physician once a year or twice a year, how often you go, it's the nurse that's going to give you that flu shot. Or it's the nurse that's getting you ready for the doctor. It's the nurse
Right.
that's getting all that input into the computers and the portal
Right.
so we can get it back.
Right.
Really isn't the physicians doing any of that.
And nursing
Right.
got me rappelling out of helicopters and saving stranded people on hills, on mountains. So
There's probably a story
there's
there.
a story behind that.
What mountain were you on?
I want to hear this.
Many mountains. I worked with the LA County Sheriff's Department as a mountain rescue and underwater dive recovery specialist for 13 years. So being a nurse got me into that. And I was able to get people off of mountains, and people that had crashed cars over mountains go down with the paramedics and bring them
Really?
back on stretchers. Yes.
Yes.
And into the water too.
Into the underwater dive recovery. They weren't, generally it was weapon recovery, but sometimes body recovery and things like that. Yes.
And that people don't know about nurses.
Yes.
That is just not bed pens.
right. I don't
It's
think
not just injections.
No.
No, I don't. You know, you're if you're just the normal Joe going to the doctor, you know, you really don't know. And how terrific this is. And do you go into the high schools and start talking about nursing at all? I mean, have you ever approached some of these, you know, like Bravo Medical High School and some of these high school, like
Yes.
right now in Watts?
Yes. Well, yes, I've done a lot of lectures at schools, a lot of career fairs.
Sure, I bet.
There's a lot of opportunities to talk to the youth about nursing as a career. And actually,
Sure.
I recommend my book for high school students, first year high school, not high school students, but first year college students. This book is an excellent tool for first year nursing students. And so I do tend to gravitate to the youth.
I
and
bet.
do a lot of career fairs.
You had mentioned something to me off the camera about the fact that you walked out of the LA divorce court and walked straight into your first day of clinicals, which, I mean, that had to be one of the most nerve-wracking days of your life. How were you able to meet a challenge like that emotionally and then turning around and saying, this is where I'm going?
You know, Marsha, I think that day was very purposeful because it prepared me for where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no way I could have known that on January 19th, I would have been starting a nursing program and having this whole day at the divorce court. Actually, I had taken my clothing for the nursing program into my car and literally changed on the highway, going over thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be too late. I'm not going to be able to make it, because coming from Los Angeles all the way down to South Central Los Angeles. But it was a bittersweet day. It just prepared me for a lot of things. It made me stronger, because with nursing, you have to have that tenacity. You have to have that strength, that backbone, that courage. You got to just keep pushing. And it was a great day, because I went from one level of my life to another level of my life. And as nurses, we have to transition all the time.
With no regrets.
With no
With no
regrets.
regrets, because
With
it
no
is what it
regrets.
is, isn't
It
it,
is
Lori?
what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yes.
And don't you just love Bob Marley?
Yes.
Yes.
Can't you just see him? I love this song. So this is One Love. This is another Bob Marley song that we're also familiar with. And it just, you want to just kind of like Bob, don't you? And it makes you feel good. Go ahead, you can sing, honey.
Well, I just really want a plane ticket about right.
Do you?
Yes.
Can I go with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
This did it-
absolutely.
This gig,
I just want a plane
honey, it
ticket.
didn't come
I'll go
with
the
a plane
islands right
ticket.
now.
Exactly. We're going to take a real short break, everybody. Bob and the girls and I, we're going to just take a break. And stay tuned, because we'll be right back.
Thank you.
I'd really love